Chapter 100. Hyun-young had a blank expression as he tilted his head. How did this just happen? He was Mount Hua's head of finance. Since he was so quick at calculating and sensitive to profit and losses, he has evaluated potential talents whenever they entered the sect. However, the current condition of the sect made it impossible for him to concentrate on his martial arts. Thanks to that, he became the weakest of the elders. Because of this, it was difficult for Hyun-young to understand the scene that just unfolded in front of him. Chongmyung defeated the disciple of the Jongnam sect overwhelmingly. What was going on? No, sect leader. Hyun-young, who wanted to listen to the sect leader's explanation, turned his head and flinched. Hyun-jung had an expression that Hyun-young hadn't seen on his face in decades. His eyes were wide open, as if they'd fall out, with his mouth hanging low enough for a bird to fly in. Both Hyun-jung and Hyun-sang were the same. Should I also be surprised? He felt a bit upset that he couldn't understand the reactions. Huh? Hyun-jung's eyes trembled as a small voice leaked from his throat, as though his soul had been stolen away. This can't be. A series of mesmerized murmurs were uttered over and over. Hyun-young gently pulled on his sleeve. Sect leader, people are watching. Get yourself together. Hyun-jung quickly shut his mouth. He was so shocked that he couldn't stop his teeth from clattering. No, that child. Hyun-jung managed to calm his expression, but he couldn't repress his surging mind. He raised his trembling hand and pointed to Chongmyung. He shouldn't be like that. This makes no sense. We should have lost. In the end, Hyun-young got annoyed. What sort of words is that? After that child fought so valiantly, how could the sect leader say such disgusting things about their own disciple? But this makes no sense. It makes no sense. Hyun-sang raised his hand and rubbed his face violently. And with his frozen expression, he asked, How long has that child been in our sect? Less than 6 months. You mean that he beat a disciple of the Jongnam sect after 6 months, and it was completely one-sided as well? Ah, thinking like that made no sense. Eungum, where's Eungum? I'm here, sect leader. Unlike the others, Eungum seemed relatively calm. Before that child entered Mount Hua, did he learn any other martial arts? No, Chongmyung showed no signs of learning anything before joining. Then, in just 6 months, he grew this much? Yes. Hyun-jung looked at Eungum in disbelief. A genius. Eungum spoke as if it wasn't a huge deal. I'm not sure if genius suits that child. He's a child that doesn't reveal his true self. Even I haven't been able to fully understand his actions. Huh? When Hyun-jung burst out in admiration, Hyun-sang mumbled. I thought geniuses and divine dragons only ever fell into other people's sects. This is like we were searching for a sack of rice in the warehouse, but a golden cow jumped out instead. Hyun-jung was shocked. I thought he was just a bringer of fortune, but... His mumbling represented the feeling of everyone who was watching. How much has Chongmyung done for Mount Hua already? He didn't need to have any martial arts talent at all. Chongmyung is only human. It wouldn't be appropriate to get greedy and try to force unrealistic expectations onto a child that's done so much for them. But didn't this situation show that he had an outstanding talent as well? Enough to take down a disciple from Jongnam so easily. When everyone was shocked, Hyun-young quickly moved. Anyway, we got the win. Doesn't this save our face? Hyun-jung and Hyun-sang dumbfoundedly turned their heads. Hyun-young grew angry and felt that the elders were acting absurd. Coughing, he spoke and tried to clear the awkward atmosphere. For now, he saved our face. For now. Seriously, this is why the finance head should properly learn martial arts. You are the only one who can speak so casually in this absurd situation. Hyun-sang joked with Hyun-young, who felt it was an unfair assessment. Hyun-young lightly smiled and looked away towards Chongmyung. Save our face. could he be said so simply? Perhaps. The outcome of today's conference may not matter at all. It was possible that Mount Hua had just acquired a talent that could carry the sect for the next 100 years. Mount Hua's child seemed to have won. Looks like it, but... Wasn't that too one-sided? Oh, this was quite unexpected. Hwang Mun-yak was relaxed as he enjoyed listening to the reactions around him. I expected as much, of course. Hwang Mun-yak didn't know how strong Chungmyeong was. He wasn't even conscious when the Eunha Guild events were settled by that child. He had been told that a single hit from Lee Song-baek was enough for Chungmyeong to cough up blood, but he didn't believe it. He couldn't believe it. That child was too insidious. He must have been playing the victim to capture the culprit. For Hwang Mun-yak, Chungmyeong was an unknown element. However, the reason he could watch and remain relaxed was that there's no way that young brat would underestimate his opponent and entertain a loss. It wasn't like he knew Chungmyeong very well, but he was the man whose eyes for appraisal built the Eunha Guild up to its current level. In his eyes, Chungmyeong stepped ahead with confidence, which meant he was strong enough to ensure victory. Of course, this was a more radical result than what Hwang Mun-yak expected. Right, this isn't a lost cause. At least that much is clear. Is this conference a battleground for Chungmyeong? Then, the results may be different from what everyone expects. There are talents in Mount Hua too. Considering the age, it's a great display. No, great wouldn't be enough to suffice. The Jeongnam Sect's disciples can't be defeated with luck alone, and that was the best of the third-class disciples. Wasn't there a big difference between them too? To take the lead so confidently, that child was surely an outstanding talent from the Jeongnam Sect, but it was completely one-sided. The conversation between the merchants and officials sounded like a melodious song to Hwang Mun-yak. However, Hwang Mun-yak didn't miss these voices' extraordinary heat. It was hard to hear praises for the Jeongnam Sect anymore, but there was also no one there who hadn't set their sights on Chungmyeong. Don't even dream about it. He is the fish I caught. With one hit, Chungmyeong managed to get more attention than Jin Gom-ryung. No matter how this conference of sects ended, the name of Chungmyeong would now spread throughout Shaanxi. Hwang Mun-yak glanced at Chungmyeong, who returned to his seat with a smile. But they only won once. If all the other disciples lose, then it will just mean that he's the only outstanding one there. That could be true. Hwang Mun-yak narrowed his eyes and looked at the third-class disciples that welcomed Chungmyeong. Now, show me, Chungmyeong. Show them all. Indeed, will it end with just one outstanding win, or will Mount Hua be able to counterattack? Chungmyeong sat down with a smug expression as the sunlight fell on him. The burning irritation which colored his expression had vanished, and in its place was a relaxed face that seemed to have no concerns. How can he be so happy after beating someone up like that? Even the devil wouldn't look so relieved. Although the disciples had these thoughts, they felt oddly gratified and burst out. Chungmyeong, you did well! Shouldn't you have stepped on him a bit more? He must have at least lost 10 years of his life. Seeing the sages cheer, Chungmyeong smiled. And they called themselves Taoists. They would have decried such actions if they had experienced a similar situation before Chungmyeong arrived, such as whether they needed to go so far or how could a disciple of Mount Hua be so vicious. They would have spoken innocent words like that. But now, they had been tainted in Chungmyeong's color. They cheered as if they were staging a festival. Even Yoonjung couldn't help but smile as he spoke. Chungmyeong, you did well. Well, I just had a little fun. It was a bad thing to say, but at this moment, it seemed justified and made the other disciples feel relieved. I knew he was strong, but they didn't expect Chungmyeong to be able to utterly sweep through a disciple of the Jeongnam Sect. This would be enough to shake their confidence. Mount Hua's disciples felt pity for the Jeongnam Sect for the first time. Mount Hua was always in a position of receiving pity from others and was never able to sympathize with others. Yunjong deeply realized that he could feel pity for all mankind by becoming entangled with Chongmyung. "Chongmyung, great job! That was really amazing!" Even if the relationship with Chongmyung was rather strained, the second-class disciples still flocked towards him and cheered. It wasn't the third-class disciples or the elders, but the second-class disciples who were the happiest with Chongmyung's results. He had helped them repay the disgrace they suffered. The defeat was one thing, but the ridicule and insults that the Jongnam sect had directed towards them were unacceptable. Chongmyung, beating his opponent, was like a refreshing bucket of cold water pouring down on a blazing summer day. Despite their previous grievances, Chongmyung even began to look a bit cute to these seniors. Personal feelings shouldn't be included, but they were still happy that Chongmyung had managed to regain a bit of Mount Hua's honor after being damaged in the matches so far. So cheeky. If he has such skills, he can act however cheeky he wants. Maybe he's a good child after all. Chongmyung shrugged his shoulders as he received everyone's praises and looked at Yunjong. "Sahyung." It was a firm voice. Yunjong, who guessed its meaning, nodded with a firm expression. "It's my turn." Chongmyung accomplished his role. No, he overdid it. Now, Yunjong and the others should carry the flame. Determined. "Why are you looking so stupidly? Get out there." "No. Does this bastard have to send someone off like that?" "Yes." Still, there was something Yunjong needed to ask. "Do you have any advice? Some tips or knowledge about their martial arts? Would you be able to use it even if you knew? Just get out there. If you can see their face, you can slap it." "All right." With bewildered eyes, Yunjong walked to the center of the arena. Looking at the eyes around him, his expression changed. The atmosphere definitely changed. Mount Hua didn't have any presence before, but thanks to Chongmyung, the mood changed. There were expectations that the third-class disciples might be different. It was Yunjong's job to turn the audience's expectations into a reality. Phew. He didn't want to be nervous, but he couldn't help it. Maybe it was because he didn't expect so many eyes on him, or because of Chongmyung's performance. But if Yunjong loses, it was then. "Sahyung!" Chongmyung called him from behind, and Yunjong looked back with a stiff face. Right, any bastard with a conscience would offer some kind of encouragement. "If you lose, I'm going to kill you." I forgot for a moment that he's Chongmyung. It was my fault. My fault. Taking a deep breath, Yunjong's stiff face hardened again. He drew his sword, took his stance, and boldly stared at the disciple of the Jongnam sect. Aiming his sword, he spoke. "Yunjong, third-class disciple of Mount Hua, asked for an opponent from the Jongnam sect." The winds of change began to blow towards Mount Hua.